The CRTC wants to know how radio, TV, and digital platforms in Canada can best meet the needs of Indigenous viewers, listeners, and content creators. Join the conversation today at crtc.gc.ca/indigenous-broadcasting.
A message from the Government of Canada.
Le CRTC veut savoir comment la radio, la télévision et les plateformes numériques au Canada peuvent mieux répondre aux besoins des spectateurs, auditeurs et créateurs de contenu autochtones. Joignez-vous à la conversation aujourd'hui au crtc.gc.ca/radiodiffusion-union autochtone.
Un message du gouvernement du Canada.
I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Monday, May 6th. We begin once more in Manitoba and the multiple murder trial of Jeremy Skibicki. And the presiding judge has decided to stay with a jury for the trial of the Winnipeg man facing 4 murder charges of 4 Indigenous women: Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Marcedes Myran, and the as-yet unidentified Buffalo woman, all alleged to have been killed in the spring of 2022. T.R. Wheatley has the latest.
The Jeremy Skibicki trial will move forward with a jury. His lawyers' attempts to make this a judge-alone trial were denied by the judge, Glenn Joyle. Before revealing his decision, Joyle explained to those inside the courtroom only 2 people can overturn having a jury trial: the presiding judge and the Attorney General. Skibicki's lawyer, Leonard Tyre, spoke briefly outside the courthouse.
Chief Judge's decision, and just follow it, of course, and onwards and upwards we go to the jury trial.
A lot of the defense's expert testimony that Joyle heard was about pre-trial media coverage and jury bias. However, the research presented was focused on U.S. trials. In the end, Joyle said the Canadian judicial system is different and that the defense did not present a clear enough case for him to change to judge alone. Joyle made it a point to say the law doesn't require jurors' minds to be a blank slate. He trusts the instructions the jurors receive is enough, especially after having taken their oaths. This was the second time defense tried to get the jury tossed. Earlier this year, they filed separate motions that were also denied. Outside the courthouse, family members and supports from some Indigenous organizations gathered after the decision, but chose not to share their thoughts publicly right now. Skibicki's ex-mother-in-law was also in attendance supporting the families.
I believe that justice will come for those poor victims. The families deserve this closure, and he deserves to, if he's guilty, he deserves to pay the price.
In court, it was also revealed Skibicki's defense team would offer a not criminally responsible on account of mental disorder defense. Outside, his lawyer would only say this:
That'll be elucidated further in the trial proper, so we'll leave it at that.
The start of the trial begins on Monday. Now, what's said in the courtroom on both Monday and Tuesday are considered closed hearings, which means it can't be reported on. Meanwhile, the jury is expected back midweek on May 8th. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Still in Manitoba, the site of a newly announced federal Red Dress Alert pilot program. The alert will notify the public of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. Sarah Bettens has the details.
Indigenous women, girls, 2S LGBTQIA+ peoples are roughly 6 times more likely to be murdered than their non-Indigenous counterparts throughout Canada. And in Manitoba, they are 19 times more likely to be murdered or missing.
It's an announcement being heralded as historic for addressing the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. At the Manitoba Legislature, ministers from Canada and Manitoba announced a new Red Dress Alert project patterned after cell phone Amber Alerts for missing children.
A Red Dress Alert system will notify the public when an Indigenous woman, girl, or gender-diverse person goes missing so they can be brought home safely.
The project is a partnership between the province and federal government. Ottawa has dedicated $123 million over 5 years to MMIWG2S initiatives. Manitoba Families Minister Nahanni Fontaine says Manitoba is ground zero for the MMIWG2S crisis. She said that 2 levels of government will implement the alert with community groups, including the Bear Clan Patrol.
Today's announcement is so important because, yes, we're ground zero, but also we have been taking a lead across the country in respect of solutions and the work that needs to be done collectively.
While the program is only being piloted in Manitoba, Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Anandasangari says there's potential to make it nationwide.
We believe that this can be the the driver for us to be able to scale. Now, I cannot give you a timeline on this because a lot of it will come down to the amount of work that's done by partners. But when we're ready, I can assure you that we will move forward as a federal government.
Sierra Buttons, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Yesterday was May 5th, the National Day of Awareness for Missing or Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit Peoples. And ahead of yesterday's commemorations, some 36 people gathered in an Ottawa park to share stories, songs, and games. The park is named after Annie Putuguk, an Inuk woman who drowned in the Rideau River in 2016 under suspicious circumstances. Organized by Tungasumvagat Inuit, the event honored and remembered Inuit who've gone missing or been murdered in the capital region. Mika Komosiutasuk says it's important to stand together to raise awareness of the epidemic.
We have not only but to look in our own city to look at the devastation that MMIWG2S causes. We can look at the young student who came here for school, Savannah Pikuyak, and she was murdered. Mary Papatsi's body was found here in the city, and she was missing for a very long time. And what message does that send to Inuit children and youth? It says that their mothers aren't important and that their sisters don't matter, and that's why it's so important for us to be here today.
Hello, I'm Sav Jonesa, guest host of Face to Face. Coming up on our next episode, I'll be sitting down with Katarina Ziervogel, an actor and writer from Winnipeg. We discuss the role of Indigenous voices within science fiction and how deaf and Indigenous cultures interact. Tune in Tuesday on APTN or listen to the Face to Face podcast. Download and subscribe on your favorite player.
And finally, the nonprofit operator of a downtown Whitehorse shelter is under much scrutiny, following an inquest into how 4 women died at the facility. Now, Yukon's NDP party has gone so far as to advocate for a full-on government review. Sarah Connors reports.
On Wednesday, Yukon MLAs unanimously passed a motion urging the Liberal government to do an in-depth review on Connective, the nonprofit organization that operates the Whitehorse Emergency Shelter. The motion was moved by NDP MLA Annie Blake.
When there's issues, serious issues happening that are having a direct impact on the quality of lives and on the lives of people who access these services, that should be enough to call for a review to happen.
Last month, a 3-week coroner's inquest examined the deaths of 4 First Nations women who died at the shelter, 2 of whom died under Connective's watch. The inquest found there was a lack of training for Connective staff and inconsistent policies and procedures. Blake believes staff are doing the best with what they have, but they need more support.
I would just hate to see more lives lost within any of these facilities that are managed by Connective.
Connective also operates a low-barrier housing service. According to Blake, people have died while using the service. The nonprofit is also responsible for the SHARP program, a halfway house program at the Whitehorse Correctional Center. Blake says she's heard stories of staff and residents selling and using drugs on site and finding ways of getting themselves put back into jail to avoid the program.
That's a huge issue because the halfway house is an opportunity for folks who are incarcerated or involved with the justice system to be supported, to be reintegrated back into society.
The Minister of Health and Social Services says the allegations about the SHARP program is news to her. However, she committed to undertaking a review. Connective said in a statement, in part, it needs more time to ensure it's taking measured and thorough action. However, it's committed to improving its programming and services. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
And that's your APTN News Brief for Monday, May 6th. I'm Rick Harp.